So in this video, I am going to demonstrate sort of old school cursors versus new school, where new school cursors are the DA cursors. I'm okay with either. I'm a GS person, as long as it works, I'm happy. So, but just to show you some of the differences between them. The new school, the DA cursors, are meant to be more performant, right? Faster on larger data sets. If it's a small data set, you're probably not going to notice it because of how long a tool takes to fire up. But this is just using some recent data, business licenses from the Township of Langley, and sort of searching by category. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Visual Studio. And I think I cleared out where I was last time, which is what I want. Then I'll file, open a folder, and then I'm going to paste in this directory. And instead of opening up an individual file, I want to open up my whole scripts directory. I want to be able to see the whole thing at once, kind of thing. So these three scripts in that I actually have tied into these three tools in that. So I'm going to go here and should I run? Yeah, why not? Run one of these for sure. So the thing is, if you have ArcPy open and you've signed into ArcGIS Online and all that, it kind of knows that you have an ArcInfo license and you're allowed to use ArcPy in that. So you can actually run these scripts from here if they have all the information that they need. And these ones do. Let's just go over the original one. It was that simple try except where we send back the whole traceback, format it so that the developer, yourself, will see exactly what line and what code fragment caused the issue. Helps you debug faster. What I've got in demo 2 is an old school cursor in here. So same try, a little bit more code. So I have a count. What I'm doing is I'm going to search for a certain type of business license and I'm going to count them up. Pretty simple. So I got to set the count to 0. I got to set where the feature class is. Now you typically pass this in as an argument. For this demo, I just hard coded it. I have a where clause in that. So where category D is the column is equal to restaurants. Now I like to use single quotes for text, but if I need a single quote inside, which I did, double quotes was actually causing an error for me. I need to escape them out with a backslash. So that's what's happening here. And this like R string in Python means ignore these backslashes. They're not escape characters. They're actually, the path, I guess the path separators on this particular system. The field I'm going to be printing out is the business name and that. So this is just sort of setting up for my cursor, right? What table or feature class am I going to go to? Do I want all the rows? No, I don't, just the restaurants. And then what do I want to do? Well, I want to print out the business name on that. I'm using an OS old school cursor. And so I go arcpy.search cursor. So this is a sort of a function that returns me a cursor that I can kind of cycle through, going row by row. Now, one thing, so how you create these are slightly different. We're not going to be able to compare it till we get into demo 3. Okay, so I get a cursor by running this arcpy.search cursor function. And when I look at it, does it return? I believe it returns a cursor class in that. And so it takes as arguments basically a feature class, which could be a shapefile or a feature class from a FileView database. A where clause. Then I believe that's an SRID. I put in none. I don't need it to flip the geometry on the fly or anything. And then a field list. Right here, it says just one field. But what fields do you want to come back in the query in that? Because if you don't need to send them all back, don't, right? Because it'll be faster. I'm just interested in the business name. So it's a layer, where clause, spatial reference, a list of fields. If you don't say anything, I think they all come back. And there is another option after that, but I can't remember what it was. We'd have to go look it up. Don't think I can hover. Oh, look at, do we? Oh, look at that. That's so nice in that. So this is another thing too, is that the tools like PyLance or Jetty, the these language servers that help you write code can actually go look at the ArcPy module and look at how the function is defined, right? So it needs a data set, a where clause, a spatial reference, list of fields. Oh, and if I want the data sorted, it'll sort it for me in a particular order. And that, but I'm not using that here. So I'll just get whatever order is in the base table. So I make the cursor here, and then I just step through the cursor. So for every row in the cursor is what you typically see in a lot of examples. I increase the count by 1, and I print out basically to the Python terminal, not to ArcPro, what the business name is. Once I'm done my loop, I actually send a message back to ArcPro to say, hey, I found this many, basically. And then I clean up, delete the row, and delete the cursor in that. And so I can actually run this. Can I run this? I think I can. I'm feeling confident that I can actually run this from the Python terminal. Because I hard-coded the path to the data set, I'm feeling okay in that. So we'll just let that run. The trick here is that I have to be in a virtual environment that has the ArcPy in it, and I typically need a license checked out, which ArcPro is currently doing for me in that. So I'm going to have a few shenanigans there at the beginning because I have conda set up and that. But basically, there's a whole bunch of restaurant names coming out and that. And then I'm just having a total, and this is the message I actually send back to ArcPro. Okay, but when I run it from here, all the AP add messages also get printed to standard out. So let's go run this in ArcPro to see what happens, right? So I'm running the exact same script. I better run demo 2 actually in that. Open it up and run it. And then we'll look at view details. It's already returned. Look at messages and that. And there's that see, I don't see the restaurant name, business names being printed out here because I'm just doing a regular Python print statement. But I do see that when I'm in VS Code. But I do see where I go add message. So that message goes back to ArcPro. And I see the total number of restaurants found. So what I'm going to do now is basically look at the new school version of that with the DA cursors. So I'm going to actually jump back into VS Code. And so I'm going to click on there, and we'll just scroll down. Imports are the same. The front part's the same. Count starts at 0. Same, hitting the exact same layer. The where clause is the same. Notice that the fields is slightly different, right? Fields, instead of giving it one big string where the field names are separated by a semicolon, I think that's the standard on the old school cursors, you have to give it a Python list where the column names are enclosed in quotes in that. So it's slightly different syntax if we to quickly go back in that. So just business name, it's not a Python list. If I wanted other columns, then I go like this, and I have sort of one big string where ArcPy will parse it based on semicolon. Here, I have to give it a proper Python list, and each a list of strings that represent the column names I want coming back. Subtle difference, right? Because they are written differently. I can use the with statement. Okay, so the with statement, it depends. There's a couple things. Your class has to be designed to work with the with statement and that. And so typically you need a way of creating and destroying itself, how it kind of cleans up after itself. So and slightly different here is the AP ArcPy.da, right? So that's slightly different. And then this looks similar, but what you find is that this is a slightly different order. If I hover over here, did it pick it up? Oh, Pylance is having problems. But basically, layer, which is the same, but I think where clause became before field. So we can go take a look at that. Yeah, the where clause became before the field. So it's slightly different order on the arguments as well. But it works with the Python with statement. For row in new school cursor, right? That's the same, count +1, print row at 0. This is one of the bigger differences here, is that the way the data is organized is just a standard Python array, and then you index by position. And so because I only requested one column, business n, then it's in the 0 slot for the array. Where before I was using get value. right? So a subtle difference, right, in that. Again, exact same message. We should see the exact same thing. Now, if I do the up arrow here, change that from demo 2 to demo 3. I'm running the new school cursor one, and we'll see what happens there. It's thinking about it, right? Same number of restaurants because it's the same query. It's just a slightly different way of doing it, and how you set the search cursor up, slightly different order. How you interact with it once you get the data, it's a standard Python array, and you reference it by position. And that's probably where they got some of the performance improvement on these in that. And if I go into Arc Pro and I close this one down and run demo 3, it's going to be a similar experience. The message is going to be basically the same. Open that up and run it. It's already returned, which is good. Down in messages, again, we only see the add message part where I say, based on that where clause, I got 276 hits. Basically, didn't error out. I don't see the individual print statements of the business names because back in Python, I'm just doing a standard print. Okay, so just a quick review. You know, it's DA. One is the fields are specified slightly differently, where clause is the same. We hit the DA search cursor, it has a slightly different order. And when we get the data back, it's a standard Python array. Whereas a row is a row object, and we have to go get value on the row object, send in a field name that we want to get, and then we get the value for that. So slightly different. But that's all I wanted to show you is the difference between old school and new school cursors. And I'm okay with either. That's it for now.